And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome into RBLR Bucks podcast, where the draft storm has passed, but the fire's still burning. I'm Usab, one of your co-hosts tonight, and well, the picks are in, the war room's gone quiet, and now it's time to do some reflection. Who's crushed it, who's surprised us, and maybe which rookies are about to become a household name in Tampa Bay. And as always, big love to the entire RBLR squad, holding it down across the bay from the ice with our RBLR Lightning to the pitch with our Rowdies and Sun team and all the way to Steinbrenner Field. I was going to say the Trop, but Steinbrenner Field for our beloved RBLR Rays. But, here on the Bucks pod, we're going to peel down the draft board, get real. So, there's a lot to be said, and a friendly reminder, listeners, as always, please do let us know how you feel about it. Ask us questions, and hell, even if you're listening to this afterwards, give us a shout out, on our post just to share, what your thoughts are, and maybe if you have a draft grade, by all means, drop that. Hopefully, it's not a D or F, but maybe it is. It's all good. But joining me once again is the scouting brain wired like a GM. Okay. Mr. Carter Brantley in the house. Carter, now the dust has settled. If there's one word to describe how you feel about, the Buccaneers draft, how do you feel? What would the word be?
Solid. I think solid is a good word to put it. Because obviously, it got off to the weird start. For those that watched the live watch along with us, that we weren't super expecting that first round pick to be a wide receiver, much less a slot wide receiver, like a Emeka Egbuka. But the rest of the draft played out pretty well. I think the rest of the draft played out more to the way that we expected for the Bucks. Solid is how I describe it, because the rest of the draft I thought went really smoothly. I thought they made some really good picks, like no real reaches, no real weird positions of need. I thought they got some good value throughout the rest of the draft. But we'll get right into our sort of reflection of the Bucks draft, more of a bird's eye view, and then we'll get into the NFL draft, the rest of the league in general, because Bucks weren't the only team making picks that night. But we'll start with some comments made by Jason Light this past week on the Pat McAfee show. I won't say exactly what he said, but he was basically just saying that personality has become a huge thing for the Bucks. They sort of go through the draft board, all of their players that they have ranked based on ability and stuff like that, and then they take out players that wouldn't be the best fit in the locker room. He did not use those words. He used some more colorful language, but I thought this was interesting because, the Bucks in Jason Light's tenure have not necessarily shied away for the most part, especially at the beginning, from players who, kind of have some question marks off the field. So Musab, what do you think of this shift in philosophy, especially over the past few years? Jason Light emphasizing that the Bucks are trying to draft good people as well as good players. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm all for it, honestly. I mean, I've always been someone who's considered myself, I guess, a no nonsense kind of man. I mean, when it comes to these players, that's what I care about the most. I hate all these divas around the league and all around sports. I mean, every sport has a couple of divas, if not many. So it's just best to stay away from those things. I mean, I feel like every single team, our own team, has, gone through some interesting hurdles with certain individuals. So like Antonio Brown and, oh man, I'm forgetting that other guy who didn't even end up playing for us. Randy Gregory.
Oh, yeah, Randy Gregory.
Randy Gregory, just those are just two little examples, but there's plenty of talent out there, some hardworking guys who are just out there to put in the work and shut up and not, say all these random kind of, little whiny comments and all that. So I like it. It's a nice kind of shift, and it's, kind of a nice, puts the league on notice and puts any player on notice, whether they're in college or in the NFL right now, saying that, hey, the Buccaneers were here, for football only. You know what I'm saying? Leave all that drama stuff behind.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think a big concern for us at RBLR, we were talking about it in the group chat, was that they were going to pick Mike Green, the edge out of Marshall, and he has a lot of off the field stuff that's icky. And they stayed away from him. He ended up in Baltimore, and I was really happy to see that. I thought that was a good move, and they've kind of shied away from a lot of those types of guys over the years. Especially, you mentioned the Antonio Brown thing. I think that was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, maybe in that regard. The Jet situation sort of caused it all to Jason Light to really reevaluate how he looks at things. And hopefully for the better, because it's more fun to cheer on guys that, seem like decent dudes. Obviously, you're not going to have a bunch of choir boys, especially not in football, because, this is a violent sport. That's the nature of it. So, you're going to have maybe some personalities. But yeah, it's nice to be able to like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Baker Mayfield. Like, these guys seem like decent dudes off the field as well. So it's a lot more fun to support those types of guys than, like we were mentioning, the Antonio Browns and even the Jameis Winstons. He had his own fair share of off the field stuff. So it's nice to not have to deal with that. But we'll focus more on the Bucs draft specifically. I thought that was sort of, when the team we're covering, their GM goes on the Pat McAfee show, you want to talk about what he said. But obviously there was a draft and there were some really fun picks. There was maybe a pick or two that we maybe disagreed with, some surprises. We'll start with our favorite pick because, want to start on the right note. And mine was Elijah Roberts, the guy out of SMU. Labeled as an edge, but I think he's going to play more as a defensive end in this 3-4 scheme. Him and Logan Hall, I think, will compete for sort of that third defensive lineman spot. And I don't know, I think he has a real good shot to earn a starting role, at the very least a rotation piece, sort of him and Logan Hall switching off and adding just more depth, because Canty has unfortunately not been the healthiest guy, and he's super talented, and when he's on the field it's great, but unfortunately, you got to prepare for those types of things. So having a guy like Elijah Roberts at the very least backing that spot up, really, really excited to see what he can do. But Mr. Shriek, who was your favorite pick from this past draft for the Bucs?
I like Elijah Roberts a lot, Carter. I believe I know one of them. I think I may have had him on my
Yes,
mock,
you did.
or I
Yep.
believe.
You
Yeah.
should.
So no. Hey, listen, I'm all for it. It's pretty tough, honestly. I was happy with a lot of the defense picks,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm gonna have to go with Mr. Benjamin Morrison. Now this guy, I always thought he was a phenomenal player before the draft, but the only kind of big question mark, because there's only so much I was able to find out or know, is the injury concern. But to summarize it all, clearly, the front office, the coaches, the scouts, all that, you don't make a choice like this without getting that green light, from that medical perspective. So, with that being said, if you got the green light from the medical kind of lens, I mean, athletic ability, he's an absolute dog, an absolute ball hawk. I mean, he missed a lot of last season, but 9 interceptions in like 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And the big thing that I love is the versatility. Currently right now outside we got at cornerback Zion McCullum and Jamel Dean, but the injury bug always gets to us. So again, having a guy like him is going to be great, and he's going to be competing right away, whether it's on the outside. Hell, they could even try and man nickel. All kinds of things going on, and I want to give a little sprinkle shout out just to the back-to-back kind of picks with going corner. I thought that was nice, a little interesting, but I was like, hey, you know what? It really made up for the wide receiver, first round pick with
Yeah.
Egbuka, but yeah, it is what it is. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
really liked the Morrison pick too. I think without the injury, he's probably a first round pick. Without the injury, he might have been the Bucs' first round pick. You never know. Stupid productive in college, like you said. Tested well enough athletically. Didn't get, he's not at nearly as high upside as some of the other guys, but it's a very, very. I thought barring the injury, in terms of performance, I feel like it's a pretty low risk pick, because he can at the very least be a serviceable, very nice backup outside corner, which the Bucs haven't had in a very long time, frankly. So him, Bryce Hall, right? Yes, Bryce Hall, and then like you said, the Parrish guy out of Kansas State. Just having those three corners, like, I would feel fine with any of them stepping in and starting on the outside. Parrish is, I think, going to compete for the slot corner role, but it's I can't remember the last time the Bucks had three guys backing up Jamel Dean and either Carlton Davis or Zion McCollum and being okay with all three options. So hopefully no Tyreek Funderburk this year. No disrespect to Funderburk, but yeah, I think he's best served as a practice squad guy for now. And it's going to be nice to see Morrison and Parrish compete for some playing time. So yeah, I really like those picks as well. The least favorite pick, kind of the opposite end of this coin. Who is your least favorite pick out of this draft? I think we have the same answer, but go for it.
Unfortunately, yeah, it's got to go. Yeah, Emeka Egbuka. Just I don't even know what to say. I'm just not impressed by him even overall. To be honest, with all due respect, I think he has great skills. I mean, phenomenal guy, but to get someone like him, first of all, in the first round, it doesn't make sense to me. If there was maybe one wide receiver, maybe two. First of all, I thought we had maybe Golden in mind, and if not Golden, I was going to go Tet McMillan, but that wasn't the case either. So I don't know. It doesn't really work well for me. I understand why. I guess this pick was made. It's not. I wasn't surprised that we got a wide receiver. I think me and everyone else was surprised that we got a wide receiver in the first round. And on top of that, it's someone who I feel like I watched his highlight reel even again and again, and it's like the guy barely gets any separation. He's not very explosive. I don't know. Doesn't really kind of have that kind of shifty juking ability. I mean, I think he's got great hands after contact. Still some great skills, but first round is just a reach. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like I could go on and on, Carter, but tell me how you feel, man.
Well, I might disagree with you a little bit on him, the player. I don't disagree on the confusion about him and Godwin playing the same position. If the injury concerns, if you're concerned about Godwin being able to play a high snap count, then you don't re-sign him. You know what I mean? Like if you're concerned enough to spend a first round pick on this position, then you don't re-sign Chris Godwin. That's sort of the confusing calculus in my head. But Ibuka can also line up outside. So can Godwin. They can sort of shift and trade off. So I guess that's sort of how they're explaining it. I don't love it because ideally they're both most effective in the slot. So why try to move them out of that? So it's a bit frustrating. But I get if they had let Chris Godwin walk, this would have been perfect. This would have been, I get it. I totally 100% spot on. It would have been totally fine. So it's kind of weird. And the thing is, I want to give Jason Light some leeway because he's made such great decisions in the wide receiver room with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, hopefully most recently Jalen McMillan, even Trey Palmer. I mean, Trey Palmer was a late round pick and he's turned into a decent backup. You can't really say that for a lot of guys that were picked where he was. So, I want to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here. Because he's shown that he's a good evaluator of this position. If he's convinced that this guy's a first round talent, maybe I can't disagree with him too much. But like you said, it's a bit weird. The production was there at OSU, but like you said, it's just a bit weird with the fit. And yeah, I don't know. It's just it's tough to see where they're coming from, but hopefully it'll play out. And maybe Ibuka goes out and is one of the best rookie wide receivers in this class, and we're all sitting here, looking like morons. So hopefully that's the case. But yeah, it's definitely was my least favorite pick because of the value in round one and just the lack of fit for him, especially in this first year. So it was definitely a bit weird. And I think he's the biggest surprise for me. Like I was kind of not shocked. That would be dramatic, but the other picks were just like, okay, yep, perfect. Makes sense. Totally fine. But his was definitely a bit of a head scratcher.
Exactly.
He was the biggest surprise for you as well.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, I couldn't believe when I read it. I was like, seriously? And I think everyone just felt the same way. And, I don't want to ever, it just makes you question, the pick. But I hope we're all wrong. I know I was very wrong about Bucky Irving last year. I was very like, oh, he's a great guy, but I wanted a power back. But I take back everything I've said about Bucky Irving. I've nothing but thankful. So I hope I feel the same way about Egbuka next season.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because, like you said, Bucky Irving seemed like a drafting of the same exact player that the Bucks already had. It seemed like very much just doubling down on receiving backs, and then it turned out, oh, Bucky Irving's just freaking awesome. So, it's so hopefully that's the same case here. Hopefully it's like, oh, well, Ibuka's just going to be a slot guy. So is Chris Godwin, and then he lines up on the outside and he has a 800 to 1,000 yard receiving yard season, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, he's just a great wide receiver. So hopefully that's the case here with him. But we'll have to see. There were a couple of positions that the Bucks didn't address that I was a bit surprised by. I think the most surprising one that they didn't pick up was safety. Just because, man, they just don't have a lot of guys at that position just at all, really, on the active roster. I know interior linebacker was another one that they didn't touch on, that people are probably a bit surprised by, myself included. And then center, I thought that maybe they would try to replace Robert Hainsey in that backup center role, but that was a little bit less of a big need because, they have some decent offensive line depth guys that they brought in the offseason. Sua Opeta, as well as Elijah Klein from last year's draft. They should both be solid on the interior. So not nearly as surprising as safety interior linebacker, but Mr. Treek, how about you, man? What position were you kind of shocked that the Bucks didn't draft?
I'll probably have to say safety. I was really thinking, we're especially after Benjamin Morrison, I was like, great, now we can just get Xavier Watts. I feel like safety is still a need for us for sure. I mean, anyone in the DB room I would take, whether that's cornerback or safety. So it does make me kind of, raise my eyebrows to go back to back on a corner, with Parrish. I think Parrish is an absolute dog though. So hopefully, again, I eat my words on that. But I got to say, I mean, only so many, positions, we can grab up in the draft. We threw one defensive pick in the first round with a wide receiver. We went back to back with cornerbacks. That's fine. We got some edge guys and finished off with another wide receiver. So, I'll take it, and I guess we'll just kind of drop the ball. Hey, man, we got Shadur's brother. Maybe he's the safety we need, although he wasn't a draft pick. But maybe things go well for us, which is why we didn't. Maybe Jason Light had this planned, from the start. So, but no,
Right.
on the real though, yeah, I was thinking safety.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see if Shiloh can crack the roster. He doesn't have a whole lot of competition with backups. So, the Bucks clearly saw something they liked with him. And, the difference between 7th round and undrafted free agents isn't huge. So they probably saw Tez Johnson as like sort of a fun practice squad / gadget player. And then they were
For sure.
Yeah. And then they were like, oh, we still need safeties. Let's go get Shiloh. So, we'll see how it all plays out with that roster spot. Because, it's Antoine Winfield Jr. he's healthy, but he could certainly miss some time. And just Tyke Smith, we got to see how he shifts to that safety position. He was the nickel last year. So we got to see how he does. But if you're looking for the biggest surprise, or if you're looking for a big surprise for your wardrobe, if you're looking for a surprise upgrade there, like the Bucks upgraded their defense for the rest of that draft after the first round, definitely head to shop.rblrsports.com. We've got some really, really great gear. Mr. Tariq is rocking it. Definitely check it out. We'll give you a promo code. That's Cannon, CANNONS. Type it in for 10% off your entire order. Since the draft is over, we're all sad about it. The rest of the offseason is going to be a bit dull. So get yourself some fire swag to kind of lift your spirits, if you will. But shifting our focus to the rest of the NFL, because like we said at the beginning of the show, the rest of the NFL also made some picks. It wasn't just the Bucks. But what team had your favorite draft? We'll start there because, there were a lot of teams that I thought did really well to improve their roster. But Mr. Shriek, which team did you think like, wow, they really got better and they were already a solid team? Or if they were a bad team and they got a lot better, which team did you have on your mind?
I'm actually have to gonna go. I'm gonna lean a little bit with the Eagles. Actually, I already kind of had their on my eye on them just a little bit, just because my one of my buddies is a huge Eagles fan, so he was kind of giving me the updates on that. And for a championship team like them to kind of keep on beefing up the defense, I mean, I thought it was real good. They got Jihad Campbell, who I was like, damn, we let that slip away to us.
Right.
Andrew Makuba, who again is on also absolute dog. Mac Williams, I mean Ty Robinson, great, just a great bunch. Hell, they even sprinkled Kyle McCord, from Syracuse. So
Yeah.
who knows, man? So I don't know. I like everything, man. Even I mean they really focus. Surprisingly, I feel like they got some real good steals on the defensive side. They even got some outside linebackers such as Antoine Powell Ryland. So
Absolutely.
I don't know. Honestly, I'm really excited to see how they do this next year. I think they got some absolute dogs from this year. They got a nice young, healthy team. I mean, they got people like Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, who are only second years guys, and they're
Right.
already killing it. So
Yeah.
excited to see what they got. But what about you, man?
Yeah, I really liked. I mean, Philly always does really well in terms of just like never reaching on anyone in terms of like draft position, according to like the public draft boards and stuff. Because they reach so hard on Jalen Rager, then they missed out on Justin Jefferson, and so they've just been like, nope, we're not doing that ever again, which is kind of funny. But yeah, it's worked out really well for them. Go figure. But my team that I think got a lot better was the Bengals. I know that they've been much maligned because they really mishandled the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins situations. They had to pay them both a lot of money, which rightfully so, because they're both great wide receivers, but they could have taken care of this way earlier than they did, because they just let Jamar Chase have another great year. And, so they had to pay him out the butt. So it was just really poorly managed. Their defense, obviously, one of the worst in football last year. Some would say the worst, and I don't blame you. But they spent a lot of draft capital on that defense. They got Barrett Carter. They also got Demetrius Knight, and then they got the defensive end out of Texas A&M in the first round, Nick Sorensen, I believe. I don't
Yep.
remember his. Yeah, I don't remember his name, but I thought investing that heavily in their front seven was really key. Was really big, and I also really liked Dylan Fairchild in round 3 because their offensive line is just a constant revolving door. So I figured just Dylan Fairchild he's sort of a high floor type of pick. He'll be fine backing up that interior offensive line. So I really liked that pick as well. So yeah, the Bengals for me, I think they got a lot better. I really like Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter as linebackers lining up with Logan Wilson. I think that's going to play really well. So
Demetrius Knight's gonna be a steal, man. Oh
yeah.
yeah, I really wish we got him, but I gotta ask you this: was there any team that made you kind of chuckle a little bit with their draft picks?
Oh man, it's tough to say because I really like the rest of this team's draft, but Tyler Booker in the first round, I don't want to say made me chuckle, but it was definitely kind of an eyebrow raiser for me because Booker probably the best guard in this draft, but not very many people had him going in the first round. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then the Giants, man, just trading back in for Jackson Dart, like they could have sat, like I'm wholly convinced that he would have been there in round 2. Like I get trading back up, but man, that was silly. And then the Falcons were really silly. Like giving up a first round pick to trade back into the first round this year to the Rams, like that's just already a net loss because there's no way that the Falcons are not picking lower than 26 next year. So it's just automatically off the cuff, pretty much an L. So I thought that was a tough way to handle things, especially to address I love that they addressed their pass rush, double dipping, like cool, I get it, but I don't know if it was worth giving up a future like next year's first to get back in there. But how about you, man? Any teams that were kind of like I don't know about that. Like any teams that made you laugh a little bit?
Um, it just made me chuckle the fact that the Browns got Dylan Gabriel and Shador Sanders both.
Yeah, yeah.
Their
Well,
quarterback room is already such a weird bunch of guys.
yeah. Real
So
interesting
I'll
there.
probably say, I mean, yeah, I'll probably say, I mean, the Giants were a close second. That was, getting Dart was kind of a nice screw you to Shadur Sanders and his family.
Right.
But that was also odd. But not gonna lie though, I mean, I think the Falcons, had some interesting. They've always been a very weird team when it comes to drafts, but
Yeah.
I don't know, man. They also made some good moves, but yeah, I'll leave it at that though. Yeah, I'm curious to see the future of the Browns. I'm pretty sure actually Deion Sanders actually had a quote I saw from a tweet that he was like, "Oh, ain't nobody want to play for the Browns," or "I'm not
Yeah.
gonna let
Back in
that
the day.
happen," or something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's Dion,
Well,
you know. Yeah.
this reality
2018.
really struck him.
Yeah, it was weird, but how surprised were you by the Sanders stuff? What do you think? Like, were you shocked to see him drop to round 5? Like everyone in the, especially good Lord, Mel Kiper Jr. was just milking it. I mean, he was kind of embarrassing. I'm not gonna lie. Like, disagree with him dropping all the right way to round 5. I get it. Like, me too. But like, good Lord, man. Like, there's a bunch of other really cool players getting picked, and like that was just all he could focus on, and it was kind of annoying. I'm glad I had it on mute because I watched the video of him going on his little rants afterwards, and it was just kind of like really embarrassing. But what were your thoughts on Sanders dropping so much?
Uh, not really much. I kind of, after day 2, I was like, damn, okay, this is getting real interesting now. So after that, I was like, wherever he goes. Um, I kind of just hate all the hype just because, there's a reason for all this, and he's always him and his dad are drama queens. There's
Right.
no sense of kind of humility or any kind of humble feeling, and this is what you get. You haven't even played a single, down in this league, and you're already acting like, you're the GOAT. So, he'll learn the hard way, but I don't know. I mean, it is surprising to see that, hey, he did go that far because I have to say, I mean, he wasn't like a bad quarterback in college.
No, not at all.
That's the thing. So,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah, I mean,
but you know what? I trust people who do this for a living, and if
right.
this is not what they want, then so be it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's what do you want to deal with? Like do you view him as a starting quarterback? And if so, do you view him as a good enough starting quarterback to put up with the Sanders of it all? The off the field stuff. Like it's not, it's not sort of, it's incredibly hypocritical for Mike Green to go in the second round and for Shadur Sanders to fall that much. Like, totally agree with people there. But that's the way teams are. That's the way teams operate. They have different priorities than the rest of the world. They're in the NFL. They kind of do things differently. And yeah, I don't know. The Shador thing was weird because frankly, I wouldn't have picked him in the first or second round, but I also sure as heck wouldn't have picked Jackson Dart in the first or second round either. So it's kind of one of those things where, like, do I think Shadur Sanders is a second or a third round pick? No, but I also definitely don't think Jackson Dart is either. Like, he was my second best quarterback in my mind, but it was a very large gap between him and Cam Ward. So I understood him falling, but I did not understand and Tyler Show going to the Saints. That you want to talk
Ooh,
about?
that was
Yeah,
nasty work.
that was silly. That was really ridiculous. Like, good for good for the Bucks because now they have a 26-year-old quarterback on a rookie deal for the Saints. Like, that's awesome. Like, I don't know. I like, yeah, the Jackson Dart pick was silly. The Tyler Show pick might have been even weirder. So yeah, I don't know. Because the concerns with Shador are his athletic ability and his arm strength. Totally understandable. Like, he is. I don't know how he's Deion Sanders' son, like, with his lack of athletic ability. Like, Deion Sanders, one of the most athletic people like ever, and Shador is just not. So yeah, it's I definitely get the concerns there, but man, he was pretty good. He was a good enough player to warrant a higher pick than Jackson Dart, Dylan Gabriel, and all the quarterbacks that were selected before him. Do I think he's a starter? I don't know. It's up in the air. I'm not, I'm not super convinced that he is, but I'm definitely not convinced that Jackson Dart and the rest of the guys that were picked before him are either. So it was weird. But shifting to a more positive note, because it was kind of a it's kind of a downer for the Shador Sanders stuff. Definitely not the most happy time in the NFL draft. What was your favorite pick of the draft? If you had to pick one player, who was the guy that you thought, man, that's a great fit? Not only talent but also just making the team better. Who you got?
I was just gonna say, the reason why I didn't go into it with the Falcons is because I wanted to do it now, which was, yeah, I think getting Xavier Watts was real nice. I think he's gonna pair real well with Jesse Bates. Obviously glad that they also addressed, need for an edge rusher with Jalen Walker, but I'm pretty jealous that they got Xavier Watson. We didn't. I think he's gonna have an absolute great season, great career, and that's probably the only safety I would probably say I really had in mind. Him and Nick Emon Worry, but that would have been also nice too. But it is what it is, though. I'm still real happy though, and fingers crossed that Xavier Watts has a bad game against us,
For sure.
when we play him. But otherwise, wish him all the best.
Yeah, I really liked if the Falcons hadn't given up a first round pick to trade back up into the first, I would have been very much very high on their draft because in terms of not trying to think long term or how the future is going to go for Atlanta, I'm definitely with you. They had a lot of really nice picks. I love the Jalen Walker pick. Xavier Watts was a cool pick too. So yeah, I like both of those picks for Atlanta. They definitely had a really interesting draft. They're definitely looking really, really nice. They have a lot of youth on that team, and I thought that was really fascinating. So my favorite pick though was definitely Kyle Kennard for the Chargers. I think he's a really, really fascinating pick out of South Carolina because he was so productive there. He also has enough athletic ability to be higher upside. It's just about, can he replicate the success that he had in his final year in the SEC? We'll see, but I think the Chargers got kind of, I don't want to say a steal, that might be putting too fine a point on it, but I definitely think that they're really revving up because they have to replace, Bosa and Mack. They have two really elite edge rushers to replace. And, Harbaugh, loves that defense. At Michigan, he was constantly churning out just insanely productive defenses there in the Big Ten. So not shocked to see the Chargers invest in that area of the field as well. Also, shout out to the Broncos. Our producer wanted to chime in. Jahdae Barron out of Texas went to Denver. Now they have Patrick Surtain and Barron and a really, really good defense. And Barron went right after the Bucs. So a lot of people kind of were like, hey, Tampa, what the heck is going on? Because they could have had Barron. So it is a bit of an eyebrow raiser for sure. But I really like that pick for Denver. They're just sort of like, oh, our defense was pretty good last year. Let's make it really good. I love that. I think that's a really fantastic approach. But the Bo Nix pick worked out swimmingly for Denver. Just things going up for Denver. The Broncos are looking really good. So really, really fantastic draft for them as well. But we're nearing the end of our episode. Definitely, give us a follow, give us a subscribe, because we're going to be churning out some really fun content in the next few weeks. We'll do more of a bit of a more in-depth breakdown of each Bucs pick, give it a grade, also give their draft overall a grade. We'll also have Zach Blaine on hopefully sometime next week as well to give his opinions, because he's got some strong ones. And then we'll get into some division rivals drafts as well and look at the Bucs undrafted free agents, because we mentioned Shiloh, but there were some other really, really interesting guys with some high upside that could potentially make some noise. And if they don't end up on the roster, they'll definitely end up on the practice squad. So a lot of really fun stuff coming our way for the Bucs show. We really appreciate y'all for tuning in. Give us a follow as well at RBLR Bucs or at RBLR Sports. But thank you to my co-host, Mr. Musab Tariq, for making my job easier. Really appreciate y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week. And as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.